My wife, she's putting the boys to bed.
Yeah, it's Prezi. Perfect. Yeah. I know we taking a dub, cause I've been dying to win. We champions, we champions. Eyes on the prize, cause I know that it is mine to win. We champions, we champions.
All right, it's Wednesday, and that means it is Wrestling Wednesday. And as you can see, I've got my DDP yoga hat on. I just reached a certain level on the app of how many points I had, so I cashed in and got a nice little hat here, and it fits really nice, and I'm excited about it. And I just made the realization I should change my backdrop on Wrestling Wednesday because I've got a bunch of wrestling t-shirts that I don't get to wear a whole lot, so I should put them up there. But anyway, welcome. You know, I'd go get those shirts right now, but my wife's putting the boys to bed, and I want to have more time to do this show. So tonight, we're going to talk about a few things. First off, you know, we'll have Matt on, and we'll talk wrestling, obviously. You know, last week's Wrestling Wednesday was a good show. Having Kyle Sweeney on, talking about, you know, kind of his path to his dreams as a wrestler is a phenomenal thing. And, you know, we're excited about everything going on in the world of wrestling. So starting off, we're going to talk about The Last Ride, this episode from this Sunday. And then we're going to talk about some things going on Monday Night Raw with the Monday Night Messiah, Seth Rollins. And then Matt and I are going to talk about our 5 favorite people in wrestling. So our top 5 people, not our top 5 favorite wrestlers like the last time we did one. This time it is our top 5 favorite people in wrestling. So without further ado,
all right, Brad, that's enough of you talking about DDP yoga and rambling on. Let's talk about The Last Ride. Let's talk about The Undertaker. He's your favorite wrestler of all time. He is the man. I think that this Last Ride gives you an outlook of what his family is like, how hard he had to work, how good he could have been, and a little disappointed that him and Cena didn't go at it at WrestleMania, because I think that would have been a great match. It was too short. He even says it in there, and that's one of the reasons why he came back and ended up having some not-so-good matches in Saudi Arabia. But I don't know if I really wanted to see this. I know everybody's excited about it, but he's The Undertaker. I don't get starstruck when I meet somebody, but I think I would have been starstruck to meet The Undertaker. I think that just the way he is, the way he walked, I like that image of him. I kind of, in a way, kayfabe way, I don't know if I wanted this. Now, as a pure wrestling fan, I love every minute of it. And he has a really good family there. Michelle McCool seems to be behind him. And it's a good in-depth look at him and how hard he had to work. And the hips that have been replaced and shoulders and everything else that he's been through. Just a really good look at his life.
So I guess Matt's going first. Well, that was a very heelish move of you, Matt. So looking at the Last Ride, to me, like you said, my favorite wrestler of all time, I kind of have the same mixed reaction you do. Because, you know, there's a couple things that like just puzzle me, because in this, you know, he's so well spoken and everything, but man, the last 5 years, his mic skills, I realize he doesn't have a lot of time to practice, and maybe like he gets in the ring and gets emotional, I don't know, but his mic skills have deteriorated awfully. And I know part of that's just The Undertaker and how simple The Undertaker, like the dead man Undertaker, how you know, how he talks and how he used to have, you know, the Brock Lesnar treatment where, you know, Paul Bearer would do all the talking. But you know, he's so well spoken and he's so human, and you know, I think I like seeing that about him, but again, it's like you said, with the wanting to feel like this is the Undertaker, you know, it'd be cool to meet the Undertaker, but I don't think you can meet the Undertaker anymore. You'd meet Mark Calloway. Let's put it that way. So, I totally identify with what happened with him at WrestleMania versus John Cena. And I totally felt his disappointment in that, because he was ready to go and he felt good. And like he said, it was such a short match. And he worked so hard to get to that point. They should have let it go a little longer. But also, like, we're lucky that they didn't like steal the wind, take the wind out of his sails of trying to finish this off, because, you know, here he had this good match. It was really short. You know, maybe that, you know, we're gonna see these Saudi Arabia matches. Maybe the reason he didn't do as well is because he thought, you know, like, well, maybe this is gonna be a short match, and I'm not gonna put as much work into it as I did WrestleMania when I only got to wrestle for a couple minutes. So I'm excited to keep watching it, keep seeing it moving forward. It's awesome to see this side of him, while at the same time ruining the mystique a little bit, you know. So it's a give and a take, but this is the reality era, and that's what Vince was going for. So I really like seeing the relationship between Vince and Undertaker, and, you know, that kind of bringing out a human side in Vince McMahon, because we know Vince McMahon's a cold, hard, calculated businessman, and here you have the Undertaker that carried him through all the rough times, and, you know, it's just a good relationship. So, next thing, Becky Lynch, pregnant, Seth Rollins the father. Rollins is the Monday Night Messiah, and that's what he's going by. He got rid of the Burn It Down music, and, you know, my hope is that this is going to die before the end of quarantine, because right now, Monday Night Raw, mostly to me, and I've never said this before in my entire life of watching wrestling, Monday Night Raw is almost unwatchable for me. I do not like Bobby Lashley's storyline. I do not like anything to do with the Selena Vega faction, and how, you know, Seth Rollins is stealing people. He's the Messiah, all this stuff. And he just acts weird. Like, he's just, like, out of it. And part of it, to me, I feel like they don't know what to do with it at this point, because they had to eliminate so many wrestlers from the show. I mean, they didn't sign contracts again because they can't afford to right now. I'm sure we'll get some of those back once things get rolling, but, you know, man, we got the product right now was really good. And, man, I know you're probably going to disagree with me, but this Monday Night Messiah thing is just, you know, it's kind of, it doesn't really even bother me too much from, like, a religious standpoint, because, you know, even though that's something that is important, is basically my life, is my faith in Christ. You know, I don't see this spoof as being the, you know, mocking that in any way right now. But the only thing that could really save it is, you know, if the guy that's behind the computer is Punk, and he comes back. And, by the way, I was extremely surprised that Punk wasn't in your top 5. What do you have to say about that, Matt? I thought for sure it would be CM Punk. But anyway, let's hear what you have to say about this. I'm excited for them that they're having a kid. And, you know, maybe Will and Drew will get to be in a triple threat match with their kid someday. It would be the GOAT Messiah would be their kid, you know, right now. The man. And yeah, anyway. All right, so what do you think, Matt? Tell me about the Monday Night Messiah.
CM Punk. Yeah, he wasn't in my top 5. Wasn't really even in my top 7, and I don't know why. I think that's more longevity in my frame of existence. But, I don't know. I was a big fan of CM Punk. There's no doubt about that. A huge fan. I was at Money in the Bank when he beat John Cena. It was an awesome pay-per-view. It was an awesome moment. Chicago was nuts. I don't know. He's probably just out of mine. The Monday Night Messiah. Now, here's where we're going to differ. I think that right before the quarantine and now is some of the best stuff they've done in years. I think they pivoted from the with Bobby Lashley. I think they pivoted away from Lana. I love the MVP thing. I think he's going to be a pretty good manager type person. They probably won't call him managers, so they don't like calling him that anymore. They've been putting on some good matches, and I understand that there's going to be a lot of people that are going to disagree with me on this. Part of the problem with Raw is it's too long with no crowd. I struggle. I said this the other day. But the show itself, there's some good matches. It's just if you're not a huge wrestling fan, it's probably pretty hard without the crowd. I think the show's been great. The Monday Night Messiah thing. I thought the way that he got Austin Theory this week to join him, and then they did like a little give and take type thing with Murphy and Austin Theory. I loved all of that. They're going to compete for the approval of the Messiah. I loved it. I don't think it's supposed to be a religious thing. I think that Vince always skirts on the edge of that. He's trying to save Raw. I like it. I like the fact that they totally changed him. I love that he went nuts, and now you set me up a Seth Rollins Rey Mysterio match later, which I still think would happen. You set a lot of things up. I kind of enjoy the show. Part of it is, you lost the man because she went off to have a child. Congratulations to her and to Seth. I love Asuka. I love all of that stuff. It makes me laugh. I think Nia Jax coming back. Shayna Baszler is awesome. But when you didn't have Kevin Owens and you're missing some of these people, yeah, it was a little hard. But I think that a lot of people struggle with watching wrestling without a crowd. And I think that's kind of what's happened to Raw. But I think the shows have been pretty good, to be honest with you, Bradley. I think they've been better than a lot of people. And, I'll be ready tonight. It's Wednesday. You do Wrestling Wednesday, and we'll be watching. I'll be watching AEW and NXT, and I don't tell anybody in which order. Yeah.
We just had our first close call. I almost got busted on doing the show. So, back to Wrestling Wednesday. We are talking right now about Monday Night Raw. And one thing that you need to understand is I will watch something, and this is a phenomenon that happens all the time. I will watch something, and I will be like, oh, I didn't like that. And then I talk to Matt, and he explains it through the eyes of, like, kayfabe, and I get it then. So you totally redeemed Raw for me right there, Matt. I do appreciate that stuff that was happening. I'm not going to lie, I was really tired during Raw. Maybe I was a little grumpy and I didn't want to, I didn't focus in like I needed to. So we'll go with that. I'm cool with the Monday Night Messiah and him recruiting. I struggle, and I'll admit this as a wrestling fan, I struggle when there's somebody that should be in the title hunt or, focusing on battling for something because they're in their prime, and they're not doing that. Like when John Cena, I love John Cena's U.S. Championship Open Challenge. That was one of the highlights of these last few years. But at the same time, he could have been battling for the main title, but I don't think he will get it again until after Nature Boy dies. That's my theory. They're letting Nature Boy have the 16-time. There's no 17-time until Nature Boy's gone. That's my theory. Okay, so moving onward, we're going to talk about our top 5 guys and girls in wrestling. And these are people that we feel like are important to wrestling. They're not necessarily the wrestlers, but they are people that they might be managers or handlers or advocates or people that work in the front office. These are just 5 people that we think make wrestling work. They make wrestling enjoyable for us. And they also just do a great job in their role to make the show awesome. And so, and that includes like the WWE backstage. That's been awesome. I know that that we're in this reality and kayfabe battle of sticking to our characters and the reality of things, but man, it's just an interesting time to be a wrestling fan. It's just different, especially with quarantine. So, looking at our top 5 people, and I'm gonna make Matt go first. Ha!
All right. When we first started talking about this topic, I wasn't exactly sure what was meant by everything. So I had to ask Brad, what are you talking about here? So if I'm going to go with executives. So I know that he'll probably have a few talent on there, but I think I want to go with executives, and there's going to be probably people that he won't have. So obviously, number 1 is Vincent Kennedy McMahon. Obviously, nothing happens in professional wrestling without him knowing about it. I still think that he has the best product. I know that's a difficult thing to say now with other things starting, but Vince is number 1. Number 2 is Triple H. NXT is really, really good. You have to watch it to enjoy it. They have some of the best wrestlers in the world, and Adam Cole can go. And the person that runs that, Triple H. Person that is behind the scenes of Raw, SmackDown, Triple H. So I think he's a pretty important figure. Then I'm going to put a little hyphen down. I'm going to go Stephanie and Shane McMahon. I think Shane is getting back into it. I think Stephanie takes care of a lot of the stuff that Vince doesn't want to do anymore. I still think she's one of the best on-screen character bad guys that there's ever been. I just think she's awesome at being annoying. She might be in real life, but who knows? But I think that when she was playing that boss-type figure, she was pretty awesome. So that leaves 2 spots, and this is where we're going to be a little different, I think. Number 4 would be Cody Rhodes. I think that he has started to build AEW. I enjoy AEW. Some of it. A lot of people, if you know me and you're watching this, I'm not the happiest flippity-floppity guy, but he can go now. He's in charge. He's probably one of the top 5 wrestlers in the world, to be honest with you, at this point. and he has really grown into being a leader for that group. And then number 5 is Tony Khan, and he is the money behind AEW. And I know that Brad probably is going to go all WWE guys. I'm good with that. I'm just throwing out some different guys. I mean, right under that would be Bruce Pritchard and Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman runs Raw. Bruce Pritchard runs SmackDown, so they would have to be up there. But I think I have a pretty good 5/6. Probably would just make that Stephanie. But from what I hear and read, that Shane is getting back into it. So I want executives, Brad. I know you're going to add some. You have broadcasters in there and wrestlers, and that's fine. I just kind of went in that direction.
Okay, so Matt's right. My list is, man, it was really hard for me to figure this out. It was my idea, and I had a bunch of people in mind that I wanted to put on the list, but I still couldn't. I don't know. I like my list, so I'll start at number 5. Number 5, I'm going with DDP. Because, first off, DDP not only had a great career, you know, he's somebody that transcends into the public, you know, celebrity area, you know, with his Dennis Rodman, Karl Malone idea. The you know, obviously DDP Yoga. I mean, he's the guy that eliminated Shaq from the Royal Rumble. But DDP, man, he's healing people. He's healing wrestlers. Allowing, you know, HBK could make a comeback right now because of DDP. If HBK wasn't so dead set on being the guy that honors the fact that he lost a career-ending match, which I appreciate. I don't appreciate that he wasn't the guy that, if The Undertaker wasn't going to have a lifelong streak, HBK should have been the guy to knock him off. But my next guy is going to be Paul Bearer. And I feel like he is a figure in this whole scheme of things that is very underrated. But Paul Bearer made The Undertaker possible. I realize that The Undertaker's, like, I understand that he made himself possible, but, you know, I don't know what The Undertaker's mic skills are without Paul Bearer. Now, Bruce Pritchard obviously as well. He's on the list too. It's coming up. But Paul Bearer, man, he got us through some times. Just like The Undertaker as a wrestler got us through some times. Paul Bearer was the mouthpiece of Kane and The Undertaker during a time that, if it's not for Kane and The Undertaker, wrestling might not have survived, or WCW would have won. You know, not that he necessarily was the part of the Attitude Era that pushed us over, but right before the Attitude Era, we would have been weakened at that point. So I say we because I never was able to get into WCW. So he helped us get to that point where we could win the Monday Night Wars. My number 3 is John Cena. And this is John Cena as a person that goes out and represents the brand everywhere he goes. You know, he is going into Hollywood, but he's not necessarily, I don't think he's ever going to be able to get to Rock status, because the Rock's movies, I think, are more high profile than Cena's. Obviously, Cena's movies are still up there, but, you know, he's a guy that can come back and be a part of everything. Okay, so I just avoided it again. I escaped. I didn't know they were going to take a bath. The office I was in was right next to the bathroom where they take a bath. So I snuck away. I'm surviving this. So back to Cena. all the events that he does, all the things that he does to promote the brand, Make-A-Wish, all the things that he does puts the WWE in a positive light and makes it so that it can be PG and make sense. All right? Attitude Era could not be PG and make sense. But that's also why we won the Attitude Era. My number 2 is a slash. Paul Heyman and Bruce Pritchard, but not just for what they're doing right now. Okay? 2 of the greatest wrestlers of all time that would not have survived in the WWE if it weren't for Paul Heyman and Bruce Pritchard, in Brock Lesnar and The Undertaker. So evidently I need Paul Heyman and Bruce Pritchard because I can't talk right now. So anyway, they're my number 2 because, you know, the things that Paul Heyman did with ECW, getting that aspect of things into the WWE, the extreme part of things. Without him, we don't have that. And Bruce Pritchard is, you know, everything he does it turns to gold. And he's a big part of everything. So my number 1, also Vincent Kennedy McMahon. I've been fortunate that I got to meet him one time in life. He was very awesome to me and nice guy. But with that being said, like Matt said, everything runs through him. I wouldn't be surprised if he secretly owns AEW and we just don't know it. I wouldn't be surprised. Just saying. So that is my list of top 5. It is Wednesday night. Before we go, it's Wednesday. Tonight I will unleash the Carlisle as a coach. That was the 15 seed that was eliminated. And tonight I will put on Twitter the next one of our stories. Okay, so we got the Carlisle coach one coming out. We have How I Met Coach Vass coming out, which was a 12 seed. And next up, we'll have number 2, Sean Taylor KO versus I Blocked Roman Reigns. Another good story. So check out the Carlisle as a coach after this. Also, make sure you go vote. All right. See you guys later. Thanks for joining us tonight. Peace.
Yeah, it's Prezi. Perfect. Yeah. I know we taking a dub, cause I've been dying to win. We champions, we champions. Eyes on the prize, cause I know that it is mine to win. We champions, we champions. I know we taking a dub, cause I've been dying to win. We champions, we champions. Eyes on the prize, cause I know that it is mine to win. We champions.